Joining me now for some analysis from Chevy Chase, Maryland, is Charles Kupchan, a professor of international affairs at Georgetown University and a senior fellow at the Council on Foreign Relations. He was also formerly a special assistant to President Barack Obama. Professor, as always, thank you so much for your time. Firstly, I'd like to get your thoughts on that first interaction we saw between Trump and Putin. The literal red carpet rolled out, big smiles all round from both men.
Yeah, I think it was a little bit too much. After all, this meeting it puts Putin in a position of coming in from the cold, a face-to-face meeting with the American president after years of isolation. This is his first visit to the United States since a UN visit in 2015 for over 20 years. Given the war is going on in Ukraine, given that Putin is an indicted war criminal, I found that greeting a little bit too warm. I understand that Trump wants to build a personal rapport with Putin, but I also think Trump needs to understand that if he's going to get anywhere with Putin, he has to basically use more coercive leverage than charm. And that, I think, we'll have to wait and see what comes out of this meeting. But Putin is a tough customer, and he has not yet indicated that he is ready to back away from his maximalist war aims.
And when you say Putin's a tough customer, it's also very interesting that this meeting was meant to be a one-on-one, but now both sides are here with very specific teams. The Russian side, of course, comprising of leaders like Putin and Sergei Lavrov, who have decades of experience and negotiating skills. A formidable team for a meeting the White House had earlier this week described as being a listening exercise for President Trump.
Yeah, we don't know exactly what went on behind the scenes, but my best guess is that Trump was under pressure not to have a one-on-one, because the last time he did that during his first term, everybody was asking, well, what's going on there? Why does he want to meet with Putin just one man to one man? And also, Trump is a businessman. He doesn't bring a lot of expertise to the table, either on Ukraine or on foreign policy in general. And as a consequence, when he's up against people like Putin and Lavrov, who have been doing this, playing this game for decades, he needs Rubio. He needs experts by his side. So I think it's actually a good sign that what was going to be a one-on-one meeting turned into teams meeting teams.
Professor, you mentioned earlier coercive leverage. What type of leverage could we see Trump use against Putin to get what he wants? He's often mentioned sanctions here.
Yeah, Trump has shifted. He started off throwing Zelensky out of the Oval Office, saying that Ukraine was to blame for the war. Then he became frustrated with Putin because Putin would say nice things to him on the phone, and then he would go and bomb Ukraine that very same night. And then Trump said, I think I'm being taken advantage of. I'm going to tighten the screws. And that involves sanctions against the Russian economy, as well as high tariffs on countries like China and India that buy Russian oil and gas, although that's now suspended. But in some ways, I think the most leverage that Trump can bring to the table is simply to say, Mr. Putin, if you don't stop this war, the United States and its allies are going to keep sending arms to Ukraine to make sure that you lose. That is to say that Putin will stop when he is stopped. And so I think that Trump needs to show that there's an open door, end this war, and sanctions will come down. Our relationship will get better. If you don't end this war, as Trump said in the lead up to this meeting, you will pay severe costs.
How do you think the Europeans are looking at all of this? Zelensky, of course, and European leaders aren't at this meeting. Trump has said he hopes the next one will include all of them, but they will also be wanting some sort of commitment that the war will end in some capacity, because it's not just affecting Ukraine, it's affecting Europe as well.
Yeah, I would say that the Europeans went from extraordinarily high anxiety to somewhat more calm over the past month because the NATO summit went well. Europe agreed to spend more on defense. Trump said, I'm going to defend NATO allies. Trump has now been much more supportive of Ukraine than he was originally. So everything was smooth sailing. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, Trump says, I'm going to invite Putin to Alaska and have a face-to-face meeting with him. And immediately the Europeans come together with Zelensky and they call Trump and they say, hey, these are the red lines. Don't throw Ukraine under the bus. And hopefully Trump is not going to do that. But I think European anxiety has again grown very high because they are not at the table. Ukraine is not at the table. Everybody is waiting to see what happens when Putin and Trump have a press conference, probably within an hour or two from now.
It's certainly something we are definitely keeping a close eye on, Professor. It's always great to get your thoughts. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Bye-bye.